Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I am Shawn White. This is the Claws Connect, and we are going to watch everyone join. This is episode 10. Hello, Kane, Paul. I am looking forward to seeing everyone that joins us tonight. Hoping we get a big audience. And we're going to have some fantastic stuff tonight. Great guests. Very creative stuff tonight. Unique. I have not seen this anywhere on any of the shows. Hello, Troy, John, Chris. Hello, Don. Thanks for joining us. Pray for snow. I think Montana's getting snow. Hello, Oliver from East Tennessee. Wow. Yeah, it's hot. And I'm thankful for air conditioning. Just give it a little bit more. Hoping we get some more people on here. Tonight, we are going to talk about puppets. Hello, Bob. Thanks for joining us. Yes, through the eyes of the puppets. And Angela, best producer ever. Very thankful for Angela. 80 here today. Yeah, it's like 100 here in Michigan. Okay, so thank you again for being with us tonight. I am Shawn White, aka Mrs. Claus Vintage, and I am with the Claus Connect on Facebook and on YouTube. So please subscribe if you have not yet. We appreciate that. I appreciate that. And tonight, part of what we're doing, and I love these words, sometimes the best way to be heard is through the friend with no voice at all, a puppet. We're going to talk about ways to have another bridge to children that are hesitant. You can never have enough tools in your bag, as they say, to comfort the child and gain their trust, and so that they can make nice memories and enjoy the experience. So tonight, I would like to do a little really quick, I'd like to go through some history on puppets. Hello, Santa Scott. Thank you for joining us. I found this very interesting. Before I like to go in, basically talk about anything, I like to do a little research, as you all well know by now, if you know me at all. When I looked up puppets have been around, as far as we can tell, for 3,000 years. It's a long time. It's not anything new to be using puppets. Archaeologists found 2000 BC, they found puppets in Egypt. They found them in tombs. India, 1000 BC, and that was shadow puppetry, which I'm sure you all have seen. China, we had shadow puppets, and that was in 1000 BC. And then in Greece, 5th century BC, the word neuropasta, string puppet, appears in writings. And in Rome, 1st century BC, 4th century CE, puppets were part of the street performances and domestic entertainment. So isn't that amazing? 3,000 years ago, the different types, and they were for, of course, all kinds of things, religion, education, just as they are now, many things, symbolic storytelling. They found them on paintings in caves. It's just very interesting to look into this. So the next historical timeline I'd like to talk about really quickly is starting in 1900. to 1930s, I found this interesting. Puppets appeared in silent films, stage variety shows, and stop motion experiments. This was in vaudeville too. They had puppets. I never knew that. Um, in the 40s through 50s, children's radio and TV shows began featuring puppets. 60s and 70s, Jim Henson, puppetry with characters like the Muppets, which I did. That was further back than I thought it was. Sesame Street, which I love dearly, and the Muppet Show became cultural landmarks. No kidding, very much. The 80s, fantasy films and global reach. Major fantasy films like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth featured puppetry. Started gaining international recognition from that. The 1990s, this is where my children grew up. Puppets featured in preschool shows and sitcoms. Bear in the Big Blue House was huge in my house. And dinosaurs. 2010s, Broadway embraced puppets in shows like Avenue Q. Puppetry found a new home on YouTube. And today we have someone with us that has puppets on YouTube and cable TV. 2020s through today, puppets continue to appear in film and television. Social media and live storytelling have re-energized the art form. So puppetry is coming back, folks. Luckily, and we're in on it. So I'm very happy with that. So hello, Bill. Hi, Charlie. Hello, Terry. And Wayne. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm trying to keep up on the list here. So that is the history that I researched a little bit for us to know. Puppets are a magical tool for storytelling and connection. I'm trying to stay with my script just a little bit here. You can be seasoned or you can be a beginner. We have both with us tonight. I personally am a beginner. I have not performed yet. I plan to this year. This will be my first year with the puppets. It is a big step. So with that, I'm going to do an interview. This is a very special, unique interview. And it's going to be with Admi the Yeti and Mike. So with that, I'd like to say hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Sean. It's very nice to be invited.
Is this your first interview or have you been on others?
This is my first interview on media, but I've had lots of interviews at the North Pole.
Yes, of course, of course. Well, thank you for being here tonight. So I hear that there's a bunch of Yetis that are living at the North Pole. Have you heard anything about this?
There's a few of us living here. There was a baby that Phineas rescued, and she's doing quite well. And then Phineas found me this springtime after the storms.
Well, I had heard it through the tooth fairy that she had to stop by to check a tooth on the baby or something. What happened with that?
Apparently, in February, the baby had a tooth come through, a fang, just like mine. And teething pains when you've got fangs are really problematic. So we brought the tooth fairy in, and thankfully she was fine. And the tooth fairy gave her a beautiful new toothbrush.
Aw, that is so sweet. So, what are your plans for the season? Do you have any new things you're going to be doing with Santa, or tell me?
Well, I've been quite scared of storms because I got blown up to the North Pole in a storm. And I've been learning the weather systems at the North Pole so I can help track the weather.
Oh, well. Will Mrs. Claus be helping you or involved in this at all or around
I hope so. I like working with Mrs. Claus.
Yes.
And she's very helpful and wants me to feel comfortable. And I'm really happy that she's taken me under her wing.
Oh, I'm sure she loves your company when Santa goes Christmas Eve too.
I certainly hope so. This will be my first year.
Yeah, yeah. Did you know that Mrs. Claus always makes a big pot of chicken and dumplings for Santa on Christmas Eve?
Chicken and dumplings.
Yes.
That's yummy.
If you look in the golden books, there's a picture of the big pot, and it's chicken and dumplings in that pot.
Yummy.
Yes. So thank you very much for your time today. And we're going to introduce our, we're going to show some pictures first of the guests and all their friends they brought with them today. So are you ready to see this? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So I want to show you something I have before we get the guests on here real quick. I want to show you very old puppets that I have at my house. And this one is she's in a little bit of rough shape. 1940s, I think, German.
Oh.
She could use some love. And then this one from Mexico is another. I love this one. About 30 years old, I think. There's lots of these out there, but I just thought I would show that. And I'm going to show my other ones before everyone gets on here. This is my owl. I haven't had a whole lot of time to work on their character yet. But I plan to do that. I just love owl. What do you think, Adney? You like the owl?
Pretty.
And then this guy, who's adorable, he's going to be joining me too. And one more. He hasn't said anything about the teeth hurting, so I think we're going to be all set.
That's good.
Yeah.
A tooth fairy.
So with that, I would like to introduce my wonderful friends, Mike Hutchings and Bruce, Dr. Bruce and Betsy and Santa Bee. Welcome, everyone. Look at you all. This is so much fun. So let's start with Betsy.
Oh,
Tell us about yourself. I'm going to hold my Yeti.
hi there. I am Betsy, and this is Lucy, who's with me today. I have a few other friends, but I've been doing puppetry probably for as long as I remember, starting from when I was in preschool all the way up through college. And then I've been performing for quite a few years using different puppets. And I think my love for puppets started with The Sound of Music. You just held up those marionettes, Sean, and it triggered some wonderful memories.
Really?
Yes, because that is my favorite movie, and fell in love with puppets then and what they can do. And then when we moved back to the States, I'm a military brat, and we moved back to the States, and my parents thought the best way to get me kind of acclimated to the community was to enroll me in a puppet troupe. And I was in ninth grade. And we would tour around talking about the dangers of drinking and doing drugs in high school. So didn't make me the most popular, but I did learn a lot of puppet skills.
I guess. So Betsy, real quick, you're on YouTube now?
I am. Lucy, she's shaking her head because she feels like she is on YouTube. She's very excited. And yes, that is a very new thing for us. We have been on YouTube for just about 2 weeks, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
So hopefully everybody will subscribe to you and follow and watch all the fun.
Watch all the fun. Shameless plug. But I perform with Lucy when I am Mother Goose. And then I'll also introduce, let me pull up my lovely little chestnut. He was in some of the pictures, but this is my Christmas squirrel. And he loves to go to all the Christmas events with me. He's rather shy. He has a very strong personality, but he's very, very shy. So he goes to the Christmas events. And then finally, I did bring Daisy. And Daisy is the Tooth Fairy trainee. Oh, she's very, very excited to be here. She's very outgoing, and she does, if you can tell, dress like the Tooth Fairy. So the problem with Daisy, though, is that Daisy does not believe in dental hygiene. So the children get to educate Daisy in proper tooth care. Those are my 3 most popular puppets, and we won't bring Jingles out. No, I don't think anybody's ready for him.
Okay, whoever wants to go. How about Bruce? Bruce.
Hey, thanks, Sean. I'm brand new to this, and how I got started was being around Betsy and Mike, and actually, my little guy here. This is Conwin. This is, and he's a Cardigan Welsh Corgi pup, and he's helping me write a book right now. So we're still getting to know each other more, and he's helping write a book called the Christmas Corgi. This is about how Conwin got up to the North Pole and became best friends with Santa and Mrs. Claus. In fact, the Tooth Fairy helped Conwin come up to the North Pole. And Conwin helps out Phineas. Like all Cardigans, Conwin loves to keep things organized. Don't you? Yes. So it's been an adventure, and it's been great just to visit with him and sit with him. And he loves to get his ears scratched. As you can tell, he's still a pup, because his right ear still hasn't come up all the way yet. But, the secret is Jell-O. They love Jell-O as puppies, and it helps the ears pop up. So, yeah. So
Santa will know how to answer all the questions that are asked about him, for sure.
Exactly. So
very nice.
So this is Conwin's first public appearance.
Well, thank you. Santa B.
Hello, and this is my friend Yoshi, the youngest Yeti. And I think Mike is probably going to carry a fair amount of blame from several of us. It was at North Pole Cornerstones, and he had the baby Yeti puppet. And as soon as he walked out with that, it was like so many things of my childhood flashed back that I used to love. And Sean, it was so funny as you were talking about the history of puppets. One of the ones I remember having when I was a kid was actually a Charlie McCarthy doll, the ventriloquist puppet, the Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy. And I had one of those, and I had a Howdy Doody. And looking at all the different puppets that I had, when I was a little kid, and a lot of them got pushed by the wayside as I got older. But man, seeing these puppets and the stories that I've started coming up with when I've been exploring what their personalities are, and I've just started having a ball. And this is Yoshi, the youngest Yeti, and this is Mush, his froggy friend from the mushroom garden.
Aw.
So, and one thing, Mike, I have to tell you, I may have to stop hanging out with you because every time I do, I find more ways to spend money. Buying more puppets, finding more stuff. It's like, but it's great. I love these.
Very nice. Very nice. Mike.
Hi there, I'm Mike Hutchings. I came to puppets probably around 1995 when I worked for a certain mouse in Florida. And I really haven't looked back since. I did some puppetry training with as I say, the Floridian mouse. I also did some puppetry training in Cirque du Soleil as well, doing a couple of shows with them. And I've been very lucky as an entertainer because I have crazy friends who used to work for Jim Henson. And when I just sort of say, hey, I'd kind of like to have a polar bear built. And I then begin getting a series of photographs of the birth of my dear friend. This is Bjorn the bear. He joins Santa and Phineas on live streams. He can be kind of chaotic, so we don't bring him out a lot because he's got a big personality, and definitely. And I made the comment to the puppet maker that at some point I wanted to do a abominable snowman character that would not get me sued. And that's when we began collaborating on what became ADME. But during that time, I was working with Santa, and we were working at a store that specialized in non-structured play toys.
Nice.
So it was a lot of building blocks and play sand and Play-Doh and sculpting and drawing and stuff. And they also had a huge wall of Folk Manus puppets, and that's where I came across the baby Yeti, and she stole my heart when I first saw her. And that was, I actually got her in trade for doing a show as Phineas the Elf, and that's how come the baby Yeti is a wonderful part of what I do. And she travels with me much more than Bjorn and Adme will. Bjorn is 3'6" tall. Adme is over 4 feet tall. And Adme has a 38-inch waistline. So she's rather girthy and will need a seat to herself on an airplane. So
wow.
so the joys of having these wonderful sidekicks, it's like having another toddler with you. So.
I absolutely love him. So are you going to be on TikTok with your puppets? Have you done anything yet?
I'm doing some work on Instagram. That's my main
Okay.
that's my main outlet. I'm still figuring out what I want to do with my TikTok beyond stupid psych gags. But Instagram is where I do a lot of my work as an entertainer and as a musician. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. The next thing I would like to talk about, and we have a question that are the puppets custom made? Whoever wants to talk about guidance for people that want to buy a puppet, and about most of these puppets are probably all the same.
So a lot of the puppets, Bruce's puppet is by Folk Manus, as is the baby Yeti and the owl and the reindeer. I also have a baby polar bear that is a folk manus puppet as well. And they are wonderful. What you have to be careful with the folk manus is if you have particularly large hands, you may have difficulty getting your hands in, but there are ways to work with that. My two puppets, Bjorn and Adney, definitely are custom, they come with custom prices. He says, gulping deeply. But they're working partners. They're professional quality. The person who made Bjorn and Adney made puppets for Henson, made puppets for Avenue Q. So we're talking stuff that gets used by some of the best professionals and very collaborative when you want to create a fun character.
But the ones that we all have are pretty affordable.
They're pretty affordable. They're not cheap. They're not like stuffed toys or anything like that. They are definite professional quality puppets.
Yeah. Betsy, any other ideas for where to get the puppets?
Yeah, so Folk Manus is exactly what I was going to say. That's a great starter puppet. That's what my sweet squirrel Chestnut is, Folk Manus as well. And Daisy is Melissa and Doug. And so, as you know, when you work in theater, a lot of people hand things to you and hand things down. And so my Melissa and Doug puppet is one that was used like for a puppet show at a preschool, and then they handed them to me. So, yeah.
Santa B or Bruce, do you guys have anything else about?
Folk Manus is where on Mike's recommendation, I found my Yeti, and that's also where Mush the Frog and Charlie the Mouse and the Magical Mouse all came from my finger puppets that I got from them as well.
Okay. And I got, these are from eBay with tags on them. So I just scoured the eBay and watched, and it worked out for me in my wallet. So, okay. Let's see. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is a little bit of how to use the puppet properly. Eye contact, motion, timing, lips moving when they should be, I'm assuming. I know there was a quote that Mike gave me because when I was researching how to do this show, he told me, and this is wise words, treat your puppet like a fellow performer. I love those words because it really does make sense. Like when we're performing, and it just respect, just like we do each other. So got the floor. Whoever wants to talk about this.
Well, I'll start because about a year ago, I went to see a ventriloquist at the public library. She was performing. She's very talented, very well known. And I invited her to lunch because I like to learn from others. I don't do ventriloquy. My puppet talks to me. But what I learned from her was, and the same as with theater, when you enter the space, you are on from the minute you come, actually a little bit before you enter the space. It's like that with your puppet. So from the minute you take that puppet out of wherever your puppet lives, you are holding it as if it is real, because it is real to you when you're performing. And so all of your interaction with them, the way that you're holding them, the way that they move, that is actually what she told me. The voice and the things that she mastered didn't matter as much as how she interacted with that puppet. So it's that relationship that children can see right away in how you hold it. But and I watched that in her next show, and I just thought that was really valuable advice. You don't just, and I won't do it. I can't even do it to mine. Pick mine up, flop it around. I can't do that to him because he's very real to me. But that's the advice I got from a ventriloquist.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anybody else?
And that's the advice that I got when I was going through my training, was that you have to treat them as a living, breathing individual. So when I did the performance at North Pole Cornerstones, I held the baby Yeti when I wasn't manipulating her. I held her like a baby. And even doing stuff like some minor things like let's see if I can do this here. Moving her leg, making the leg kick with my fingers, and moving the hand around and making it look like she's stirring without moving my body too much. It gives them the illusion of life, basically. The other thing you have to realize is that if you're using a puppet that has a mouth, it's their mouth. And this is something I always saw with some performers, is that they'd use the mouth to adjust something like adjust it is like, and no, don't do that. Like the baby Yeti is wonderful because they have gloves that you can put on your hand, and the other thing most people don't realize is that the eyebrows wig too.
Oh. See, I don't know if mine does. I gotta look and see.
They do. You just got to go.
Do they really?
Yep. You just got to go up above the eyebrows, and there's a space.
How do you get in there? Okay.
So she's got a very expressive face, so she can.
Sure does. I didn't know that.
Are you awake?
Oh my gosh.
And then of course the hands wave, and she can blow a kiss and stuff like that. So the main thing is that you treat them like they're a living thing, as opposed to, it's an expensive glove, because I've seen a couple of performers and they'd adjust their hat with the mouth of their puppet. It's like, no, use your other hand to adjust them. And then I usually, when I'm holding the baby Yeti or the Yeti, if they're not sitting on something, I will hold my arm under them to give them some support, just as you would a small child. So, and that's how you treat it. So,
okay, so I guess I would call myself a puppeteer.
mm-hmm.
That would be the proper term, right?
A puppeteer would be the proper term. Ventriloquism is an art into itself.
It's too hard.
It's not as difficult as it seems, but it is an art unto itself. Jerry Keel just mentioned that Event Haven in Cincinnati with Mark Wade is wonderful if you want to learn. There's also Event Haven Museum that's just across the river in Kentucky, which is either absolutely charming or one of the most horrifyingly frightening things you've ever been to, depending on your feeling of ventriloquist dummies.
I actually want to go see that. I've seen that in scary shows and stuff.
Yeah, it's on Atlas Obscura, and definitely is definitely someplace to go. But Mark and Jody Wade, who run it, they're wonderful people. I've known Jody for nearly years. Mark is incredibly talented ventriloquist, and wonderful people to learn from. So highly recommend them. So.
Okay, so common mistakes, like you just were talking. Tell us some more tips on how to make it really real. If a child's walking up to you, tell us some.
When you talk, what moves on your face?
Your mouth?
Your lower jaw.
Oh.
You don't talk by moving
Okay.
So when you talk using a puppet, you keep the top of your hand as stationary as possible and use your thumb to manipulate the mouth, because we don't talk like this.
Okay.
That type of that type of talking is safe for yay and stuff like that, but when you talk, it's mostly just your lower jaw moving with your mouth, and not your, otherwise you look like a baby bird. So.
Got it. Anybody else? Any more?
Honestly, as I've been playing with the puppet and learning and watching different videos, and I am extreme novice. Like I said, this was picking up a lot of things from my childhood that I enjoyed playing with, and have started re-enjoying all those wonderful things. And as Mike was just talking about that, using your using your thumb to make it talk instead of the top of the head, is like, that makes perfect sense. And really, I think whenever I sit down with Yoshi, it's not a puppet anymore. It's Yoshi. And as we start working on, when I'm telling stories about Santa's realm, it is, Yoshi as the youngest Yeti, who is a troublesome equivalent of a 10-year-old boy in human years, who is just always into stuff and roaming around and getting into trouble. And, a little bit of my own personal history goes into Yoshi and a lot of the kids that I work with. But it's funny, whenever you were talking about not flopping them around and not throwing them down, I thought, I've literally got the finger puppet setting over here, setting up, looking at me as if we're having a conversation. And Yoshi has a shelf here right next to where I do all my Santa Bee stuff. And without even recognizing it, just being as invested in the character as I became when I first got him, that what you said all makes sense. This is not just a prop. It's another character.
Very nice. How about you, Bruce? Anything to add?
Listen, I'm like yourself, Sean. I am a neophyte here, and I am just a sponge picking up everything here. But it's really interesting working. I think in some ways I've got an advantage here with Conwin, because Conwin looks a lot like our Monty, who's a redhead cardigan, and basically a lot of his behaviors, I'm trying to see if I can let Conwin try those types of movements, behaviors, the nuzzling, just how they love to just wrap themselves in your arms when they're tired. So it's a lot of observation and a lot of mirror work. It's kind of like teaching conducting classes, students using mirrors, and
do you find it like a really therapeutic kind? Just listening to you, it sounds like it's a therapeutic, different thing you're doing.
Oh, it's totally different, because yes, there, like, through puppeteering, like, you are creating and you're making something happen, but it then starts to take on its own life. And just the creation of this character, just subtle movements, just like how do they rest on your arm, how do they rest on both arms, and what I'm finding is that just how do you subtly remove your hand, because as Mike did say, those of us who have larger hands, this brand is a bit of a challenge, but it's amazing how much give, like, just the workmanship I don't know what it's like with your guy, but I find that the workmanship here does allow for a lot of stretch in that area. So every time working with Conwin, it's total new discoveries. So it's kind of exciting, and it's great to hear those of you with the experience, because I know that a lot of the people who joined us for this episode, I would think most of them have little or no experience. Like, sure, growing up, I remember having hand puppets and then using them for different ed projects when I was in the Faculty of Ed, but actually having a partner like this is going to be something totally new.
All four of my children, every night before going to, when they would get in bed, they had puppets in their beds, and I would have to go to each room and sit and tell stories with the puppets. And the other thing that I've done that was pretty big is give parties, and we'd make puppets, and I would do the history. These are German puppets we would make out of paper and put them together and then do strings on them. So who knew that would lead to this? So right now we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we'll come back, and we are going to talk about ways to connect with the children. So. Well, I can't wait to get those boots when I go to Branson. Okay, now I've learned a ton from Mike and Betsy listening to them. And Betsy, sometimes we talk after she'll have a performance and she tells me about what her puppets did and how the children were reacting. And I'm listening because it amazes me. And it's such a wonderful, gentle, amazing thing you're doing with the kids when in the puppets. So please, I know you know what I'm talking about. So please explain.
Yeah. One thing, and I heard Bruce say the word mirror. One of the reason that I'm inspired to work with puppets is because puppets are a very, very good way for children to connect about feelings. And one of the reasons I started using a puppet as Mrs. Claus is because if they are nervous, it's a way for them to, my squirrel mirrors their emotions. So he's very shy and he may be hiding, he may be nervous, he may be shaking. And so when they see that, children automatically will come over and maybe they'll, try to comfort him a little bit, have those talks. Lucy, on the other hand, often her emotions are a little bit different. She says things that children find very, very funny. She's I grabbed her mouth. Sorry, Mike. But Lucy often says the things that children are thinking, and I use her during shows. She does a lot of comic relief. She can use, when we hand out music, she will sing and dance. If there is a hesitant child, Lucy will become a little bit gentler. She will be sad. She has those feelings because I think Sean and I both feel it's so important to talk about those things. But she can go everything from being silly. It's amazing what scarves do, but simple movements. And I have a really tiny story just about my show on Friday that I think I was talking to Sean about. A little girl came in. It was a very large show, and she came in and she was shaking. Her little 3-year-old voice was shaking, and then Lucy starts shaking, and she says, "Does she bite?" And I said, "Oh no, Lucy is very sweet. Lucy loves children." And then she said, "Well, why do you wear gloves as Mother Goose?" And so I talked about, well, I wear gloves when I go in front of the most important people, which is, of course, children. But what I talked to Sean and reflected about is how real our puppets are. And it's a privilege. So when I move, like I see Bruce gently moving, like taking in that character with the corgi and how it doesn't have to be big. Lucy is big movements because she's a ventriloquy puppet, but my squirrel is subtle. It's all in that type of how you interact with it. And they're just such a wonderful tool and a wonderful bridge to communicate with children.
I know I'm going to do that because the stuff I've heard you talk about for so long, like I can just envision like my apron and me sitting. When I get downtime and there's a lull, then I'll bring the puppet out and just be sitting there and comforting the puppet, talking. So somebody walks up and it'll be looking at the child. I've got this all in my head, and then child to be loud, running up to see, and it probably will turn toward me just like I've listened to you. Yeah.
Oh, and friends, if you are doing a big stage show and you have a puppet, it's a wonderful tool for noise. If they are getting very loud, my sweet little Daisy gets very, very nervous because she's a fairy and fairies don't like loud noises. And so she will hide and she will get so nervous and she will tuck her head in and she'll start to shake and get so, and then she'll kind of go back. And so Daisy will maybe leave for a second, but they want Daisy out there. So she comes back out when it's a little quieter. And so teachers love, a lot of teachers pick up puppets after we leave and they see what a good classroom tool it is.
It's almost like the power of the puppet when you get with all the little ones.
Yes.
Wow. Does anybody else have any, Mike, or any?
I use the puppets because as Phineas, I can be kind of imposing because elves are not supposed to be 5'8", 275 pounds. So I can be kind of imposing. And so what the puppet does, I also have a polar bear puppet. I've got a baby reindeer that I use as well. And if I'm going to a hospital where I'm going to be working in pediatrics, I will take one of those with me so I'm able to bring, as Betsy said, the energy down to make it quiet. The baby Yeti is wonderful for that. The baby Yeti, because of the fact that the hands work and the eyebrows work, and I can do things like um, Bob always talks about the fact that he carries a squeaker with him at all times. And it's amazing what you can do when you have the baby Yeti holding, boop a kid's nose, a child's nose, and the squeaker goes. And they will squeeze the baby Yeti's finger, and I've got this squeaker elsewhere in one of my hands or somewhere else where I can manipulate it. So there's lots of opportunity. It's a way of bringing things down and bringing people in, because if the Yeti is shy and you bring her in and she's like looks furtively and hides behind her hand or something like that, it's able to just bring the energy down, make it a lot less manic, make it a lot more bring it into a smaller sort of situation, because you can be shy and between your fingers and
I would imagine if the child sees you comforting the
Mhm.
puppet, that they're also going to think, oh, like you're nurturing, you're going to be soft and gentle with the child.
Yeah.
Too.
As I often said, the baby Yeti brings out my maternal instincts. So
Yes, I heard you say that. I remember that. Yes.
so,
You're holding that baby on stage.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Anything else, you guys? Any more stories, emotional, meaningful moments? I can't wait to do this and experience that stuff. Okay, how are we going to use the puppets with Santa and Mrs. Claus roles? Do we have any thoughts yet? Or you've already done it, maybe?
I always have a puppet in my Mrs. Claus bag, whether I use the puppet or not. I always have it there because I like to be prepared. Often puppets work as a great tool, like having a book or having other things that can help, especially if I'm working with Santa and I work with so many different Santas. It will be just a great tool to have if they are, they need help in line or whatever they need help with, having that puppet there. And again, children, as we know, are very nervous often. So that's one way. I love the idea that you were talking about, Sean, about having it on your lap while they come up, you interacting with it. I think that that's such a beautiful, subtle, and that's what I wanted to say. If anyone is watching this and it's kind of, oh, I always wanted to do a puppet, but I've been so nervous about it, just try it in that type of situation when you can sit and you interact, pull it out for 2 minutes during your visit.
And I think I'm going to think of it as like a kitten in my lap, like
Yes.
or a little puppy or a gentle little animal that's not going to, but, and we'll just shut it down and it'll go to sleep. If I'm done moving, I guess is what will happen.
Yeah, and Lucy has to go to sleep many times during my show because often she's a little disruptive and the kids tell her, go take a nap, take a little time. So you have power over that.
Tell me how you transition the puppet into a bag or a basket or whatever, and what does it go into?
This is where I will say, be careful with what you put them into. Would you put your bestest friend dog into a backpack, like just cram them into a backpack or something like that? So I've actually got, for many of mine, I've got what looks like a pet carrier, and it is a pet carrier. And it's just, just to keep them safe and give them someplace comfortable. It's their room. So there's lots of people around and they don't want to be overwhelmed. And I always go to one of my bigger events as with Santa. Last year we did it. They had a roaming magician who actually walked around with a live rabbit in a hat. And by the end of the day, the rabbit was so stressed out, he had kicked the crown of the hat clear out of the hat because he was just thumping away. And it was just like, don't you have some place where you can put the rabbit so he can be quiet and away from the people and stuff like that? And I forgot to bring it. And it's like, I bring a carrier for my puppets. How is it a difficult thing to do? Because, as I say, you're not going to cram your best friend or an orphaned baby into, a backpack or a suitcase or something like that. So just be mindful, One of the reasons why I don't work with the folk Manus owl is, do I really want to carry an extra bird cage around? Kind of situation.
I was thinking like something like a furry something round, make something, put fur on it, and then set it in, like it looked from the North Pole or something.
Yeah, something like that. I was actually thinking of either like a nest or even create sort of a harness where she can sit on my shoulder or something like that. So
yeah, I like that.
But I have it. I just haven't figured out a way to bring her in and out without looking like I'm shoving this beautiful, majestic creature into a bag kind of situation. So
let's go through the questions real quick. Santa Scott said, I don't know who he was talking. Is he coming with you to Branson, Rob? Are you bringing him?
I think I am going to go ahead and bring Yoshi with me when we go to Branson. Yeah.
I think you should. And I'll bring one of mine with me. How about that?
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Charlie says, they all look wonderful. The puppets, I mean. Thanks, Charlie. We love you too, Charlie. Paul says, Bjorn, is that how you say it? I'm not sure. Is the penguin? Is it right? Random House.
There is a book called Bjorn the Bear. That's a children's book.
Okay.
Bjorn is actually Swedish for bear, so it's kind of like naming a bear a bear. So
perfect. Yeah. Okay, Jerry says, I just picked up a Rudolph with a lighted nose. That's cool. And a snowman puppet with crazy eyes. That sounds scary, Jerry. A little bit. But that'll be fun. I'm sure he's a hoot.
Jerry, where did you find those?
Yeah. And then John says, there is a whole preschool puppet program that several of the places I visit use. It touches on social and emotional issues. Very nice. Don says, interesting evening. I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate this into my home visits. That's wonderful. I can't wait to hear him after. Christy, I appreciate all you very much. And thank you so much for your time. I will be getting a puppet. The Claus community is so wonderful and supportive. I love your stories. Thank you all again for your time and wisdom you share. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. That's wonderful. Wonderful. So, adding props and storylines. Do you think, any comments on anything along that line?
That's been something since I got the puppets. They actually opened up a whole new. I've now telling stories about Santa's realm, and created kind of a whole different storyline for my Santa character and where we live, where Yoshi is at, and we created I say we because Yoshi's part of the process. We created a great mushroom forest because we actually live below the North Pole, inside, kind of like a Journey to the Center of the Earth idea. And so there's all kinds of different things that we just started writing and playing with. And that's where Mush the Frog came from, because he lives in the mushroom forest. And that's where Yoshi likes to hang out. And so having that as kind of part of the storyline, and I can tell the stories to the kids, using the puppet, and we talk about Santa's realm. And, and the fun thing for me has been, again, and it's going to come to expense because I know all these different puppets that I want to get. I can have almost any mythological creature that I want to, living in Santa's realm, and have them be part of puppets and doing this. And I think for us, even some of the things we've even touched on before is using YouTube and TikTok and some of these as places to explore with the puppets and play with the puppets. And I mean, doing them live is going to be fantastic. But even just having this time, you were talking about mirroring, and I realized I haven't mirrored once. I've TikToked some where I'm watching myself and recording it. I was doing it tonight, playing with Yoshi, and just seeing some of the different ways the facial expression changed on the screen. And it was a lot of fun to watch that. And I just had I'm fostering a service dog, and the puppy just came in. This is not a puppet. This is a puppy.
Aw.
This is Sandy. She will eventually be a service dog for a veteran we're fostering right now.
That's wonderful.
Yes, down you go. Go.
It's very nice. So do you guys think that I guess, Betsy, puppets are part of your brand, I guess, quite a bit.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the children, a lot of my shows are improvised because I have established that relationship. I mean, there's a storyline. Normally it starts with Lucy kind of as the goose messing up the nursery rhymes, and the children have to, or she gets bored with them. Sometimes she goes to sleep. It depends what mood she's in. If someone calls her a chicken, as you know, that doesn't go well. But we watch her reactions, and then the children help us rewrite the nursery rhymes or the fairy tales, and then that part is improvised. But it has a loose structure that, as Rob was talking about, that the more you do it, the more different realms of stories. And I think freeing yourselves to not be nervous about going in and trying it, because the kids are on your team. They want to walk into this world of imagination and creativity. And I think if we do not do it, then that is a disservice to children everywhere. I know that's dramatic, but I truly believe just in the power of creativity, imagination, and what puppets do for children. I have never had a show with a puppet that has gone south. And it's not because of anything that I am doing great with it. It's because children want to believe and they want to be part of this experience with you. So let your nerves go. Get to know your puppet at home. Get to know it like what Sean does before her performances, practicing on a screen. And then let it go and have fun with it.
What wise words. That's also ties in with what Santa B says, as he's tapped into his creativity like we all on this screen have done. And we let ourselves free to do that. And that's a beautiful thing. Art is so healthy for the mind and being creative. And we're not stopping that. And be it with music, dancing, whatever painting, puppets, however we're letting it just flow as an adult, very healthy for us. So,
Sean, I have one little tip. I can't see you guys without my glasses very well. If you are nervous about using the bigger puppets, one thing I taught Tinkergarten, which was an outdoor play-based nature classes, and they would integrate puppets, like what Mike talked about, unstructured play groups, similar to that. But if you can get a finger puppet, something small, maybe a spider, maybe and you hold that, I don't know what would relate with Christmas, but again, I'm the woman who uses the Christmas squirrel. It is an Arctic squirrel some days, which I have researched. But if you can use a finger puppet, that might help you get over that hump too. I love.
Okay.
Good
to know.
Yeah.
Good point.
Answer Dawn's question.
Yes.
There is Folkmanics does have a fox puppet. They don't have an Arctic fox, but if you've got an Arctic fox stuffed animal, you don't need to have a hole to put your hand in it. You can still manipulate it, you could wag its tail just by holding its tail between your two fingers and moving it. And I'll give you a show with the Yeti's head. You can just do that. You can kick its legs. You can, just have it move it like it's a real Arctic fox or something like that. You don't need to have your hand in it. I often tell people that when they are interested in puppets, but they're kind of put off by the expense, that find a stuffed animal that you like. There are a number of wildlife companies that make very realistic stuffed animals, and try working with them as sort of a puppet. I know Bob McMaster uses a sock monkey, and he's able to manipulate that to make it look like it's real. And if you are interested in practicing doing that type of thing, there is a magical prop called a spring raccoon or a spring skunk. And if you look up the YouTube videos of how to manipulate those, you can manipulate a stuffed toy like that as well. It's amazing what you can do to make an inanimate stuffed toy look realistic, even though it's not a puppet. So definitely, if there is not a puppet that you can find, use a stuffed toy and learn how to make it, animate it, make it look like it's real, because that's basically all puppetry is animating an inanimate object to make it look like it's a working part. And you can imbue as much character into that stuffed animal as you put a puppet.
I think my biggest stressor right now, I haven't spent a whole lot of time, granted I've been kind of busy, but is like I said, putting it down without my arm being seen coming out of it. That's like, once I get past that hump, I think I'll be good. I'll be golden. But I just got practice, I guess. So Christy wants to know if anyone has an elf puppet. And she says, I think the puppet will help me not be so nervous as well starting out. I was a fan of Mr. Rogers. I love Mr. Rogers. And he used puppets as well to help children be at ease. Yes. Betsy?
Yes, this is a great segue into Jingles. Let me introduce Jingles. I hope you're all still watching because I'm not terrified. This is Jingles. I actually did adopt Jingles from the ventriloquist I was speaking about earlier, his cute little elf shoes. And just a quick note of caution. I've told this on another episode of another show. I didn't read my crowd real well, and I brought Jingles to a preschool show. And when Jingles came out, they screamed and ran. Jingles is, and Mike and I have decided it probably is his teeth that might scare them a little bit. But Jingles is very sweet. And the one thing I will say, sometimes we have very sweet, puppets, and it's great to interact with those. Those are awesome. If you're trying to make some creative, like really work creatively, getting something that is exact opposite of your character, like Mrs. Claus, finding a kind of naughty elf, but you need to do it maybe with preteens. They love him. So that gives you, when you're writing, having that opposite to you. And the preteens love the things that Jingles does, I also have a sweet little girl elf too, but I don't use her very much. I don't find her as entertaining as Jingles.
So I need to get like a little demon spawn or something to have with me.
Just have something that can, if you want it depends on your crowd and your audience, of course, as always. But I love to come up with creative things. And Jingles was just everything that I needed in my life when I adopted him. Yeah, he's very sweet. He scares Daisy, my pink puppet, a little bit.
Well, thank you, Betsy.
You're welcome.
I answered her question. Jerry says his wife is upset. He has 20 puppets now. Uh-oh.
Yay.
I want to see pictures of all these puppets, Jerry. You should take a picture of the whole room full of them. That would be cool.
See, there is a company out of Australia that often post on Facebook, and it's Pubbets, Pubbets. They do have a lovely elf outfit that you can customize. You can make a boy elf or girl elf with them. They're in the process of retooling how they do business because the tariffs have basically killed off their business right now. But they make wonderful professional level puppets, and you can decide what skin color, what hair color, what eye shape, nose shape, whole 9 yards. So if you go to Pubbets, Pubbets on Facebook, they are very active, and they will let you know when they're tooled up and ready to start building again. So they definitely have a cute elf suit for boy elves and girl elves, so check them out. I will highly recommend that. And there's other elves that you can look at as well. Some scary, some not so scary. So
tell us the value of puppets in a performance. Sum it up for us. What would you give advice to somebody that's thinking about it?
As someone who's brand new, I'm looking forward to creating more of a personal experience, especially for the children who are very shy, who are not quite sure about coming up to Santa. Because again, like, and Mike, I think that, and Sean, when you talked about, that 180 character, well, all of you touched on it, that, functioning as a foil, I think that also brings out much more interest in just in a personal conversation. It's important in a show that you've got that foil character. And what's been fun, Sean, when you first mentioned this, so I was just kind of looking at different things, and just the different pieces of literature out there, like especially like the Pinocchio story.
Oh yes.
And just how it was basically written as a child's morality story, and parallels so many other stories, everything from Jonah to Odysseus, and the idea of 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 of, of becoming a good, caring person. And I know, like with Conwyn here, like part of the story here is that how Conwyn found acceptance in the community, because Conwyn is not an elf. Conwyn is not a spirit yet in Welsh folklore. Conwyn does have his fairy kiss, which is so important because it means that on the night of his birth, the fairies came and rocked him to sleep. So just finding ways to just engage with visitors and guests, I think, will be so important. And I'm sure I will find ways of having this spin out further to into more show experiences too. But I think, I'm just at the point that I just want to get out there and just try it. And and what's nice, yeah, Christy mentioned that just to have a partner on stage who will always be there with you, and just work through all that nervousness, I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Tell us a story about Pinocchio real quick that you told me.
Well, it's interesting. It started off, that whole period around 1880. So in 1881, Carlos Kolduli, I believe what was his last name, wrote these installments about this puppet boy. And then in 1883, the newspaper collected it. It was published as just one large story. But apparently he wrote it with the idea of showing how people long to have children, how children, even though they may take their own path, that they do find their way, and that the love of a parent, the guidance of friends such as Jiminy Cricket, or the mouse's version of the cricket, his conscious, the blue fairy being able to come in at the last minute, just these people in our lives who help us grow and help us to become, and that idea of transcendence. I think, looking at the story now, for me is wow. Like these are stories like the group of us in the consortium talk about. How can we embed these ideas? Well, the literature is there for us.
Yep. Wow. Thank you, Bruce. Anybody else?
I
Go
wanted
ahead.
to say really quick just how much they fall in love with your puppet character, to the point of, I have, Daisy comes in, and she, again, is a tooth fairy trainee when I perform as the tooth fairy, and knows nothing about dental hygiene, like I said. So the kids educate her. Well, the whole thing is, will Daisy earn her wings by the end of this half hour? Will she change? And unfortunately, she still doesn't believe into, by the end, she normally does not, get it. So she does not earn her wings. Well, about a year later, I got a letter. Did she earn her wings? And principals were calling me. Did Daisy, the children care? And so from that, I did adapt my show a little, where no, she didn't quite earn her wings yet. She's not ready to go out on the field. However, I bring little tiny tooth fairy crowns, and Daisy gets a flower crown because children want her to win. Children believe in her. They love her so very much. She is very silly, but they fall in love with her. Even if they have this same puppet in their classroom, she's different to them because of how we interact with her. But I listened to them. So as Bruce goes out and gets on the field with his puppet, you learn and you write, as Mike knows, as Robin knows, all of them, from doing it and hearing what they say. And then you change your stories and you adapt. And because I thought, oh, this is brilliant, she won't get her wings. But that wasn't brilliant, because it devastated them, the thought of this little tooth fairy that keeps trying, but they want her to have something. So that's my little thing about,
And that's part of what we talk about, is listening to the children, period. Less talk from us and more listening, and it works out, and it's much better for the children. Anybody else? Anything? Santa B?
No, this has been a great night. I have learned a great deal. Of course, whenever I get to hang out with y'all, it's like I'm just fanboy in the back. I'm just like, yeah, I can't believe I'm here. And it's just so much fun. And again, I know it's always an expensive journey, because now I'm thinking like 3 or 4 more puppets that I got to get now. So.
Okay, so you guys got to make a deal with me. Next year, about the same time, we'll have another puppet show, and we'll talk about our season this year and how it went. And so we'll have a redo of this. Okay, cool. I'll mark it in the book. Let me see if I've had anything else. Because we talked about the history of puppets. We talked about how to interact with a puppet, how to interact with a child, how to take the puppets in and out. Anything else to recap this that I missed? Where we get the puppets? Anything else that?
And Etsy, if you want to, I'm Betsy, I'm saying Etsy, but I'm just saying that's another one that's like not getting a full on custom puppet, but you can go on there. There's puppet people who will help you design it. I don't suggest that. I don't suggest starting out with an expensive puppet the same way I don't suggest with starting out with the most expensive gear and claws things. We've talked about that before, but I think learn on whatever you can. Folk Manus, I'm so glad Mike talked a lot about that.
Yeah. And that is what we talk about for just being your own self character, is find out who you are before you start spending thousands of dollars and buy everything in sight. Spend time on volunteering for everything you can do and learn who you are first. So I guess with that, I'm going to thank all of you, and I really appreciate this show today. Thanks to Angela, our wonderful producer, and Bob. They put the videos together for us and take care of us, and makes it so much nicer. It's so kind of them to do these shows, because I can just focus on finding the history out, talking to the guest, and doing my backgrounds and all that stuff. So next Monday, is going to be a great show. I'm going to have Joel Agrone on here. I couldn't have him on till next week because, as we all know, he's been in Little Mermaid and very busy on stage. So it's going to be a great show. He's a great guy with so much to talk about. Actually, tomorrow morning, he's calling me and we're going to have one of my first conversations because, as you all know, I try to talk to my guests beforehand, maybe even a couple times weeks prior, before I even think about doing a script or outline or anything for the show. Because we want to be true and honest and authentic and get to know our guests like we should. We owe them that out of respect. So with that and my thank yous, I'm going to end the show with some special words that I'm going to start saying at the end of each one of my shows. And here we go. Everything we do is for the children, the ones before us, beside us, and beyond us. And with that, I'm going to say good night and thank you all. Love you guys.